Welcome back to A Plus Parents, everyone. And so here's how I'm going to say this. I have a celebrity today, and her mom is a celebrity. So it's kind of funny. How do you do that? How do you introduce somebody whose mom was a celebrity on top of that? So let's just jump in and get going. So who I have with me today is the co-executive editor of Homeschooling Today magazine, also the blog, the podcast program called Homeschooling Boldly. Ashley Wiggins is super excited to have you here. Wiggers, sorry about that. Ashley Wiggers, so excited to have you here. And, it's funny. It's like, my mom tells me now that, there's like oftentimes that she says, oh, I'm always known as, Dennis's mom, right? I don't get known as Gail's son, right? So kind of funny. So we're going to talk about your mom, who was Debbie Strayer, and she's passed on, but an amazing person. She was an author. She was a speaker, and a huge homeschooling advocate, and traveled all across the U.S., really, getting the homeschooling movement going. Together, your mom and dad with another family, they pioneered the Homeschooling Today magazine, which was a print magazine that's now digital as well, back in 1992. Ashley grew up homeschooling. And so, what a great way to be able to tell the story about what it is to be homeschooled, because you were, right? Not only do you homeschool your own children, and they've got that 3 kids at home, her husband, Alex, and Grampy, the grandpa, is hanging with you guys in Lutz, Florida. So first of all, I'm just super happy to have you here today. And you're also an author as well, because you've put together what's called the Profiles of the History series. So I'm going to have you share with it a little bit about that as well. Okay, first of all, did I leave anything out about you and who you are? Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Okay, well, very cool. And, I'm going to take a guess that you kind of carried on the tradition that your mom started, when Debbie was out really talking about homeschooling and promoting it. And she was doing that back in the day when, it wasn't so cool, right? Now, today, it's it's a little cooler now, right? So, it's a different conversation to have out there. But you've really kind of picked up on what your mom started. And, like, today, still knowing that, where you came from and how you grew up and being homeschooled yourself and what your mom started, how does, sometimes, like, does the passion ever run out? Like, you're still passionate about homeschooling, and why?
Oh, I love it. I just love the opportunity that it gave me growing up. So I love encouraging other families in it because it was such a gift to our family. I actually have a learning disability. I have a visual perceptual processing disorder, which is just a long way of saying my eyes and my brain don't work together quite like everyone else's. So for me, homeschooling was such a gift because I was never told, "Oh, you can't do this," or "You're not very good at that," or "You're going to be slower over here." Um, there were no limits on what I could do and what I was capable of. And my parents helped nurture that in me. I was a shy girl growing up, and they really loved on me and gave me this safe space to grow and develop in that I was able to become who I am today because of that. And I think, when I was a kid, my parents never would have said, "Oh, she's going to grow up to be a public speaker or this or that." You just never know what your kids are going to be able to do. But when we sow those daily seeds of love and investing in them and their future, God can do anything with that.
Hmm. Oh, I love that. You said something really great, because I think oftentimes too, we discover we're dealing with some kind of I'm going to call it a learning challenge, right? So there's something that the way that you would see things, the way your brain would process it, they didn't always sync together. The way that, it's so funny. It's like the way we say that's normal. And I don't know if there's anything actually called normal, right? It's just that
True.
yours may not be like other people's, right? So yours is
Mhm.
totally normal to you. But, I think what happens oftentimes, especially for kids that are not homeschooled and not in that nurturing, loving environment, right? Oftentimes we get shaped based on that learning challenge that we have. And so it's not about the things that we can do. We get told the things that we are not going to be able to do because of some challenge that we have, right? And you didn't have
Mhm.
that at all. You actually were in that space of, wow, you can do anything you want to do, right? And then here you are today, an author, a speaker, you're the co-executive, editor of a homeschool magazine, a very successful one. So a mom, a wife, taking care of Grampy, you got it all going on, right? So just super cool. So, And I think sometimes, you grew up in this environment, so it wasn't scary to you to know that what you were going to do with your own kids was going to homeschool your own children. That was just kind of just a given, I'm sure. So do you ever notice, what is it like for parents that maybe they didn't have that background? I know for us as a homeschool family, I wasn't homeschooled as a kid, and I discovered homeschooling, as we started putting our programs together. It was really I was adopted by the homeschool market, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm part of the family. Well, let's homeschool our kids, right? So it was kind of, how we got into this. But, growing up in that, oftentimes I think parents sometimes have fears about what it is to homeschool if they don't have the same kind of background. What do you share with parents if if they're coming up against fears about what it's like to, that they want to homeschool, but they might run into some fears about that?
Sure. Well, we always tell parents that, home is really the best environment to learn in, and parents make the best teachers because they are the ones who are the most invested and the ones who know their children the best. And people don't realize that you actually learn better if you have a great connection with the person who's teaching you. So, what better connection than a child and their parent? And really, home being such a good environment to learn in because there's no pressure. You're not trying to perform for someone. You are relaxed. And if there's not pressure and you're not being forced to do something maybe that you're not even interested in, then there's so much more possibility and enjoyment in learning. So I think parents need to realize that instead of feeling like we're trying to measure up to something, we need to realize the benefit and the value in what homeschooling really brings.
Hmm, that's awesome. Yeah, it's good. Just trust and believe, right? The path is laid out for us. So it's so great.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so there's Homeschooling Today, the magazine company, right? But the podcast has a different name. That podcast is called Homeschooling Boldly. And and we were talking as we were getting ready to record because I was like, well, why did you have the different name? And you said it really is the mission of what you're up to, where Homeschooling Today kind of like fits inside of the mission, but the mission itself is Homeschooling Boldly. So, when you talk about the idea of homeschooling with boldness, how do you describe what that is?
Sure. So homeschooling boldly doesn't mean you know everything, first of all. And it doesn't mean that you get it all right either. It means that we have boldness because we trust the one who called us to this role. My
Mhm.
mom's life mission, her life Bible verse was actually First Thessalonians 5:24, which is faithful is he who calls you, who also will do it. And
Mm.
so for us, that's what it means to homeschool boldly. We're bold and confident because we know that God will provide and he's going to lead us every step of the way. And that was the message that she shared across the country. She actually was an educator. Both my parents were. And so they never planned on homeschooling. Homeschooling was kind of a surprise when my brother turned 5, and they just knew what it was going to be like for him in the classroom because he's all boy and he loved digging in the dirt. And he loved bugs and he loved playing baseball and being read to, but he hated to sit still. And he thought that if you put a pencil in his hand, he had done something wrong and he was being punished. So they knew that if this little boy was in the classroom, he was going to lose his love of learning. And they realized that teaching him at home was going to be the best thing for him. And then I came along, with my learning challenges. And so it really was the best thing for our family. And through that, my mom was able to inspire and encourage so many other homeschoolers because she knew what they were doing in the classroom. And she knew that she could say to homeschooling parents who were so afraid that they weren't going to do a good enough job, she could say to them, no, listen, this is why homeschooling is so wonderful for your kids. This is why it's such a benefit for them. And this is what's happening in the classroom. So you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to worry that you're not measuring up because we can do a great job at home.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. True. Okay. So I got to ask, here's your brother who you put a pencil in his hand. He thought he was in trouble, right?
Mhm.
And what does he do today? Like, as an adult?
Yeah, so he actually became a musician and stay-at-home dad after that. And so he, school and all the academic stuff wasn't necessarily in his future, but the things that my parents were able to instill in him was a great value to him later on because homeschooling, you learn how to problem solve, you learn how to deal with difficulties and think creatively. And I think that is such an overlooked skill these days, to be
Mm,
creative about things instead of just trying to find the right answer. In homeschooling, you can look for, well, how did you find that answer? And what do you think about this? And well, let's look at other answers. And just being able to think critically about things and process what you're learning about instead of just filling in a blank. I mean, that's what really grows up kids to be able to be great learners.
wow, that's awesome. What a gift to give back to his own children. So that's so great. Yeah, it's funny. I think about being a musician, right? Because when I was growing, I was a musician growing up, and I was told, that's not going to be your day job. It's like it was that, there's that phrase like, don't quit your day job, and it was like,
Mhm.
had I been homeschooled, I probably would have gone down the path of becoming a professional musician because I had the skill set, but I didn't have the encouragement. And it was, and it was everything around me, and even, just that was the way that in my generation, how we grew up, I was like, nope, go to college and music. No, don't do that. Right. But we're homeschooling
That's the
ourselves, our
key.
family. And guess what? We've got a dancer in our family. And so, he couldn't be happier. So he tells us every day, thank you for letting me be homeschooled. So it's just
Oh,
really, really
that's so
awesome.
awesome. And that's the
Yeah.
key right there, isn't it? Encouragement.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
here parents are worried. Am I doing enough? Are my kids going to be prepared for what God has called them to? And if we trust him, if we believe, right, that we are part of the process of what God has called them to, then yes, they're going to be prepared. And the encouragement that you're giving them, the faith that you have in your kids. So I'm going to tell a story about myself. Um, I'm a writer today, and I'm an editor of a magazine, right? So when I was a kid, the learning challenge that I have, I actually couldn't write very well at all. And all my words were connected. There were just a long string of letters. And I would write these stories and bring them to my mom. And she would go, "Oh, this is great. Tell me about it," because she couldn't actually read it. But I didn't know
Wow.
that. I thought she was just
Right.
excited. And so I would tell her these stories about talking iguanas and, my best friend and I on these adventures, detectives, whatever it was. And it was through that gentle nurturing that she provided that I was able to grow in that gift. She recognized the creativity that was there. She recognized the spark and the flame that was being fanned into something that I would become, but it wasn't
Wow.
there yet.
Right.
That's the encouragement. That's the key of homeschooling. You're providing a place for your kids to grow and develop, trusting God, believing for something for their future, and allowing Him to put those pieces together instead of looking for the results. In school is all about results. And I love, teachers do a great job. The classroom is wonderful, but I just want us to be aware that, we're not about looking for the performance and the results with our kids. We're about training them, teaching them up, helping them grow into who they're supposed to be. That's the gift of homeschooling.
Yeah, right. And that is performance, and those are results. Those are just, it's just said in another way, right? It's
Yes.
great, and that's where I came from. I was a public school teacher, forever ago, right, in a former life for sure. So so it's great because I can see, both worlds and what that looks like and what it was like there. So, all right, so there's a couple of things. You're the editor of a magazine now, right? You're also an author, and you grew up with with having some learning challenges going on and being able to write and have it be in a way where it was legible, where somebody could read it, right?
Yes.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about the books that you've written that are called, let's see, Profiles for History series. So, tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about what is that, and so people can find out more about it, of course.
Sure. So I love history, and growing up I would always hear history is so boring. Oh, I hate history, this, that, and the other. And I just thought, history, if done the right way, is so exciting because you're learning about people's stories, and you're seeing how God wove different things into their lives to bring them to a certain place. And so the profiles from history are all biographies written in an engaging way where we're not just saying, oh, this person was born on this date and this is what they did and this is when they died. I mean, come on. Yes, that is boring. I would hate history if it was like that all the time.
Right,
So,
right.
profiles from history is all inspiring stories of people who did amazing things, written in a way that will engage children and get them excited too. And really, hopefully, thinking about what great things they will be able to do.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Okay. So we've got listeners right now. We've got parents, we've got young people listening, right? And I know that, oftentimes it's like young people are discovering their own writing skills or their own passion for writing and creating. Tell me a little bit about, for you, giving advice to a young person who is interested in working in the industry that you work in. So you're a writer, but you're also the editor of a magazine. What would you say to a young person that says to you, they say, hey, Ashley, I want to do what you're doing. Like what would be the advice you would give to a young teenager, adolescent? Like, what would you say to them?
Absolutely. So I would say, look for those things that make you the most passionate. So reading, for me, reading great stories, reading about people who did amazing things, connecting with beautiful literature and poetry. Those are the things that kind of made me come alive. And so I would say, if you're wanting to go down that path, the more that you read and write and actually practice what you're passionate about, that's where it develops. And looking for and praying about opportunities and maybe mentors or people to connect with can also be a great tool.
Oh, that's great. It's great. It's funny. There's a phrase out there now, and I end up saying this a lot. In fact, I just was interviewed on a podcast myself, and it was like, what tip do you have for people? And it was a tip that someone gave to me, and they said, do what you love to do. That was it. That was the whole thing. It was like, are you doing what you love to do? And in my day, that was not the tip that was given in my late adult life. And it's actually what led me to creating the math program. Was I love doing what I do, right? And it was like, and I just didn't look back, and I was guided. Definitely I was led, and I prayed about it. And it was like, okay, dude, this is who you are. This is what you're up to. Let's get to work. Right. And that was it. So, so I love that. And you're pointing right to it. It's like, man, find those things that light you up, that you're passionate about, which is really, really awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the magazine, right? Because the magazine was started in 1992. So this is kind of pre-internet days. And it's transformed quite a bit. So it started as a print magazine, and now it's digital, but there's still print. So for people that are interested, because I know sometimes people are like, well, I still want that, I still want something in my hand that I can read. So can you share a little bit about with people, if they're going to come, and we'll give everybody the website, it'll be in the show notes, about how they get there if they want to subscribe to the Homeschooling Today. But just tell us a little bit about that, kind of like the history of the publication and where it is today.
Sure. So the magazine has always been in print, and we have so many homeschooling moms who want to be able to get a break and step away with a print magazine so that they can not be distracted or, have dings on their phone or things like that. And I love that about the magazine. So we made it something that it would be beautiful to look at, which is all my husband. He's a self-taught graphic artist and a homeschooling graduate. So there's that. But we wanted it to be refreshing and a breath of fresh air for homeschooling moms because, this journey is not always an easy one. You're dealing with a lot of things. You're dealing with attitudes. You're dealing with, trying to take care of the house and get food on the table. And so we wanted to make sure that we are providing the encouragement and the authenticity that people will feel supported. So all of the columnists in the magazine are handpicked because these are people that we believe in, that we trust are going to speak life to the reader. And we also have the digital version of the magazine, which is a great, scrollable. It's kind of a new format for digital magazines. And I think it really is intuitive to the devices that we have nowadays. And so you have two different ways that you can consume the magazine. And then the digital version, we also have audio articles now. So instead of just having to read, now you can hit play and actually listen to the writer of the article read it to you, which I think is really fantastic. And then there's bonus videos in there and other things, clickable links in the digital version. So they kind of go together. They go hand in hand now, which is wonderful. So
That's awesome. That's my kind of reading, by the way. It's like, read it to me, please. That's good. I'm like your
Yeah.
brother. Like, I like it when people read to me. That works out great. So, all right. So for people, it's homeschoolingtoday.com. And if you're interested, you can start on the site, but if you want to go right to where you can get to the subscription, it's homeschoolingtoday.com/products with an S /print with a dash hyphen subscription. So print dash subscription, take them right to, I said that grammar right. It's hyphen. Yeah. Is that the
Yeah.
right there? Okay, good. Us math guys, our grammar is kind of sometimes, right? So that'll get them there. Is the podcast, is it on that site as well? Can they get to the podcast from there? Or I know the
Yes,
podcast has
there's
its own domain too, but
the podcast is right on the site, just on the top tab. So you can click on that there.
very good. And you interview all kinds of people on your podcast as well. So, and, people in the homeschooling industry, just, great. Tell us about that since we're talking about it now, right?
Sure. Yeah. So the podcast right now is hosted by three of us. So myself, my co-executive editor, Kay Chance, and then one of our columnists, Connie Albers. And so the three of us together present just encouragement. Connie focuses on relationships. Kay focuses on natural learning, and I focus on really motivation and kind of sharing some of my experiences, the things that made homeschooling matter, and in the end, what really mattered for all of us. So that's what we do. And it's actually really short. It's just 5 to 10 minutes because we know homeschool moms are busy. And so it comes out Monday morning, 6 a.m. And it's short because we want you to give just a little jolt of encouragement and kind of get your mindset ready for the week.
Wow. Okay. All right. So big shout out, Connie Albers. Connie's one of my buddies. So
We
that's so
love
good. I didn't know
Connie.
she was doing that with you. That's so great to hear. I think she was our second guest on when we started this podcast about 1.5 years ago.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I went to her, I said, look, I need somebody huge. Come on, girl. And she's like, I'll be there. So so very good. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us today. This was a treat to get to talk to you, know you more. And I've been, in and out with the magazine, and we've done some advertising with you, which has been really, really good. So for people that want to get on the site, again, you'll find it in the show notes to get to homeschoolingtoday.com. Or if you want to go to homeschoolingboldly.com for the podcast at 6 a.m. Monday morning as it comes out. But you don't have to listen, you don't have to be awake at 6 a.m. to do that, even though most people are at that point. And then Ashley, as the year's going on, maybe we'll get back together, do this again, and come back and talk more about what you guys are up to, if that works for you.
That would be great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to A+ Parents, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.